The GoPro Hero line has been the king of the action cameras for a long time. But with other manufacturers stepping into the scene and releasing their own action cameras, it does beg the question, is the GoPro still a good action camera? So in today's video, we are going to be checking out the GoPro Hero 12 and we're going to be finding out whether or not it is worth buying a GoPro in 2024. So I purchased the GoPro Hero 12 in September 2023 and I've had it in my possession for around 4 to 5 months now. I did want to make this video a lot earlier, but I thought it would be worthwhile just having the camera in my possession for a longer time and just seeing how well it fit in with my workflow and giving it enough real world testing. So let's have a quick look at this camera's features before we get into some test footage and obviously my personal opinion. So first of all, the camera has a 1/1.9 inch CMOS sensor, which records in an aspect ratio of 8:7 in its full frame recording mode. This image sensor and standard lens can capture a field of view of 156 degrees. However, with the addition of the max lens mod, you can upgrade this to 177 degrees. The Hero 12 features a HDR mode, HDR meaning high dynamic range for more vivid photos and videos. The 12 also boasts longer recording times of up to 90 minutes in a 5K 30 mode, for example. There is also the new Hypersmooth 6.0 video stabilization with full 360 degree horizon lock. You also have 27 megapixel photo capture and waterproofing up to 33 feet. There is also AirPods Bluetooth microphone integration, meaning that you can use your AirPods as an external wireless microphone. We also have wireless timecode sync with other Hero 12s and also the new GoPro log shooting mode. Now, a lot of these features were also present on the GoPro Hero 11, so what has actually changed? So the differences between the two are as follows. Obviously the HDR video mode, longer recording time and better battery life, the max lens mod, a combined 1/4 inch and folding fingers mount, Bluetooth microphone integration, timecode sync, GP log, updated Hypersmooth and an updated menu system. It is important to note that they did remove the GPS mode from the Hero 12. This could probably be to save on recording times and battery life. As it currently stands, the Hero 12 is $50 more expensive than the Hero 11. And personally, to me, I think that $50 is worth spending when you get that many new features. So let's have a quick little scroll through the entire menu system of the camera, just to outline all of its recording modes and other features we haven't yet talked about. So if we swipe downwards, we can see that we've got all of this menu at the top here. And starting from the left, this is our SD card section. Obviously there's no SD card in here at the moment, but if you were to tap this little symbol here that says manage SD card, you would be able to format the card. There is also an auto upload feature to the GoPro Quick app, which you can download on the Android and iOS store. And if we swipe to the right here, we can see we've got a couple little symbols at the top here. So this first one is the voice control. I don't personally use this. I prefer to start recording manually. Then we have got the beeps, which is denoted by this little musical symbol. I always have my beeps off just because I don't like it beeping at me and interrupting any other audio. So we've got the quick capture on, which I believe is if the camera is off, you can just tap this button and it will power itself on and start recording immediately. I don't really use this because I'm never doing anything too on the fly like that. Then we have a little lock symbol, which is the screen lock, which you have to slide to unlock once you've come off of that section. Obviously this means, slide to unlock again. And then let's turn it off. This means that if you just set the GoPro to record and you leave it somewhere, that it won't get interrupted or any buttons pressed during its recording. So back in this section, we've got the front screen options. Obviously there is a front screen on this camera. So I like to leave mine as what I would see on the back, essentially. You can have it off. You can have it as status only, which I believe just tells you if it's recording on the battery. You can have the actual screen, which is basically a mirror of the back screen. And then you can have a full screen, which I believe is clean and you don't actually see any info, just the picture. I'm gonna leave that on actual. Then we have the orientation button. You can have this to set itself up. So I think, yep, it goes into a vertical mode. I personally don't like this because it does stuff like this and it's actually quite slow to go back. So I just have my orientation locked so that it doesn't start shifting about. Then if we swipe over to here, we've got this pair device section, which I believe is for the Bluetooth AirPods calibration. I've not actually tried setting up any AirPods, so I don't actually know too much about this. You've got a preferences tab for auto upload, wireless connection. There's a general tab which has stuff like the beeps volume, quick capture settings, default presets, which I use as last used just because I mainly use it on the same stuff. There's an auto power off section, which is after 15 minutes. Obviously, if you're not recording, there's an LED section because you have little LEDs up here. And I believe there is this one here and also this one on the top, just to let you know that it is recording, as they will glow red. And there's a video tab down here. And obviously I have my bitrate set on high. There is a standard mode as well. There's a bit depth, we can choose 10-bit or 8-bit. Obviously 10-bit is the best. There's an anti-flicker. Obviously I am in the UK, but I have been leaving this on 60 Hertz because if you put it to 50 Hertz, you get PAL recording modes only, which is, I believe, 25 and 50. However, in 60 Hertz, you do get 24 and 30. I shoot a lot of stuff in 24, so I leave it on the 60 Hertz mode. I'm not going to go over the voice control tab because I feel like it's kind of useless really. I won't be telling, ooh, GoPro record. I will just press the button. There's a displays tab. Obviously landscape is our orientation. Screensaver will come on after 1 minute, which I'm actually going to bump up to 5 minutes because it does turn itself off pretty quick. Screensaver will match the rear. As a brightness section as well. I should really be leaving this on 100. Don't know why it was on 50. You can put a grid on the rear as well, which is, I'll show you what that looks like. You can see it's like a rule of thirds section. Obviously this is too overexposed now because I have done the brightness too high. Okay, that's better. Our brightness at 50%. So what else have we got in this tab? So there's a voice control and the displays, which we've just been through. Obviously there is language, which I leave in English. There's a date and time setting, blah, 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 very boring stuff. Not gonna do that. There's a mod section as well, which is, this is like the media mod and the max lens mod. I don't have these enabled, but they are pretty cool. About section, blah, 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 and a reset button. All good stuff. So let's leave that alone. So let's look at the main screen here. So there's 3 modes to this camera. If you press the button on the side, it will switch to photo. Obviously this is the stills, the time lapse, and then obviously the video one. We're going to focus on the video one today. So we've got our SD up here. Obviously there's no SD in it, but when there is an SD in it, it will tell you how much recording time you've got left. This tells you what mode you're in. Obviously we are in the recording mode, and obviously the battery is up here at the top. Then we've got this little button here, which is for the hyper smooth. So in the 8x7 recording mode, which you can see here, you only have the options of on or off for the hyper smooth. You don't have the boost, the 360 lock, all that kind of stuff. And in 8x7, you are also locked into the wide lens. So obviously there's a little section here, which is like these slider tabs. This will take you into all of the resolutions. You can also access that through here by going into your presets. I've got a couple presets and then tapping here. But we're just gonna have a quick look at the custom tab that I've got open here. Okay, so at the top, you can see the profile. So you've got standard, HDR and log. So you can only use log, I believe, in 8x7. I don't think that you can use the HDR mode in 8x7. The aspect ratio you can choose by 16:9 and 8x7. I'm going to do 8x7. Resolution 5.3K. You can choose by 4K and 5.3K. I'm actually going to switch this to 16:9 just so I can show you all the frame rates. So in 4K, you have access to 24, 30, 60 and 120 recording frame rates. Then you've got a selection of lenses here. You've got L+, which is the linear plus horizon lock. Then you've just got linear, wide, super view and hyper view. You've got a hyper smooth on and off and auto boost. Then for the capture section, you have a scheduled capture, duration of capture, the hindsight thing, which is like a pre-roll setting, I believe. A timer and a digital zoom. This is not an optical zoom. Then you've got the shutter, which you can change to auto or you can lock the shutter. I will leave it at auto for now. An exposure comp, which is actually grayed out because I believe everything's in auto, so I can't dial that in myself. a white balance, which is on auto, and the auto white balance on here is actually pretty decent. You've got an ISO minimum and an ISO maximum. Setting these to the same value will basically lock your ISO at one thing. Then you've got a sharpness slider. You can do low, medium, or high. I leave it at low just because I think the processing in this camera for sharpness is a bit crap, to be honest, and it just looks a little bit awful. So then there's GP log down at the bottom, which is locked in because we have selected log at the top. But I believe if you go to standard, I think, yeah, you can choose natural, flat, and vibrant. So let's go back to our lovely log shooting mode. And then that is pretty much it. You've got a raw audio capture, which I have off because this does some post-processing for the audio. And same with the wind. So the wind reduction, you can have auto on or off. I just kind of leave it on auto because I never use the audio from these. In a rare occasion, maybe I use some exhaust noise when it is attached to the back of the car, but that's about it. You can program shortcuts and save your settings as well. So I'm just going to quickly put back the settings to how I usually have it, which is like that in the 8x7 mode and 5.3K. Obviously, being an 8x7 5.3K limits you to 24, 25, and 30 in the frame rates. Obviously, you can't do 60 in the 5.3K 8x7 mode unless you switch to 4K. Okay, so that is the settings of the GoPro. Just another quick look around the GoPro while we are down here. So obviously this is the lens at the front. Obviously these are actually removable and interchangeable by squeezing and twisting. So you've got the little microphone down at the front here. Obviously the front facing screen, rear facing screen. It is also important to note that they did update the design to have these cute blue little speckles on there, which sets it apart from the 12 visually, aside from the big 12 on the side. On the top, this is the record button. On the side, this is the power on and off button, obviously 12 black on the side there. And then on the bottom, you have the two folding fingers mount, which you have to kind of pick out like this. And then this allows the GoPro to attach to all of its accessories. And then obviously there is a 1/4 inch mount on the bottom, which is new for the 12. Then if we go to this side, if you use your nail and pull this door down and open it, that gives you access to the battery here, which just pulls out via this tab. And then there is a USB-C to charge the battery, and then there is the micro SD port as well. And then if you hold the power button, it will turn the GoPro off. And that is pretty much everything that I know about the Hero 12. So what are the applications for this camera as a filmmaker? Well, personally, I think that it is amazing to capture point of view shots that you would never normally be able to capture with a big, heavy cinema camera. I think it is also amazing to capture drone shots, especially on an FPV setup. And I think it is great at capturing unique angles that you wouldn't be able to capture with a conventional camera, especially on moving vehicles. For example, a wheel shot is somewhere that you would never place your big, heavy, expensive camera, but you would just pop one of these on a little suction mount and be good to go. But the applications do not stop there. I think that outside of being a filmmaker, this has a ton of uses for me personally. I think that it makes a great vlog camera, and I do think that it also makes a good wide angle stills camera, and just a great camera to capture memories with altogether. I did mainly purchase this camera to take on holiday with me, just so that I didn't have to bring my big Blackmagic camera or have to worry about dropping and breaking my phone. And so far it has been with me to Mallorca and Thailand, and it has just been perfect. And the main thing is I just wasn't worried about dropping and breaking this camera, just because they are designed to be dropped and thrown around, and they stand up perfectly. There's not a scratch on this camera, and it has been in all kinds of situations that I would not even record with my phone. So let's take a look at 5 different scenarios in which you would use a GoPro and how well it does in each of those. Okay, so we are back in Premiere Pro, and we're going to be taking a look at a couple of scenarios in which you would use the GoPro Hero 12. And the first scenario is as a helmet cam on a motorcycle. This is a pretty cool, unique point of view shot from the rider, and this is captured in 16:9 and 4K, and this is also in 59.94 frames per second. If we play the clip, we can just watch it through, and you will see that there is not a lot of motion blur, and that is because this is before I had ND filters. So the GoPro was set in auto shutter, So it is just cranking the shutter up really high because of the lighting situation. It's actually quite bright, as you will see in sections like this. So you can see the cars pretty clearly on the side. But other than that, I think it is pretty cool, and it does give you some really nice, unique angles. Obviously, when we're banking through the corners here, it looks pretty awesome. So next up, we have a different scenario, and this is actually as an underwater camera. So this was shot in Mallorca. Obviously, this is a very nice sunny day. There's lots of light. This is also with an automatic shutter speed because I didn't have ND filters at this point in time. So you will also see there's not a lot of motion blur as well. I have actually slowed this down about 50%. This is also, I believe, yeah, a 59.94 frames per second clip. When we play it back, it is in half the speed, but pretty awesome. The colors are really, really nice. I do actually have a LUT on here, but without it, it still looks pretty good. This is shot in the log mode, so you do have a lot of flexibility. Obviously, just for reference, if I just crank the contrast up, then obviously it is quite a bit green. Sorry, not that green. And yeah, you can get some pretty good results out of it just by a couple minor tweaks here. Obviously, the log mode isn't that strong. It's not as strong as, for example, the Blackmagic log modes. For example, this one here, you can tell there is a huge difference. But when we toggle our changes on and off in this, there's not much difference, to be honest, but pretty cool nonetheless. We'll turn our LUT back on, and as you can see, there is actually quite a lot of detail retained. I believe this is also this is actually a 5.7K clip, so there is actually room to scale up as well. So if I set it to 100, yeah, you can see there's not actually much detail lost, and you can see the fish pretty well. But yeah, another cool little scenario. And the next scenario is probably my favorite use of the GoPro. So this is as an FPV drone camera. So I've strapped this to my DJI FPV, and I'm just going to be following this car here. You can see very, very nice. Obviously all performed on closed roads, and lovely. And then we dip off to the side here. Wow, amazing. So you will notice this clip does say stabilized, and that is because I've used a software, this one here, called GyroFlow, which means you can just drop your clips in and it will stabilize them a lot nicer than the inbuilt Hypersmooth 6.0. Obviously, you have to have Hypersmooth 6.0 turned off to be able to utilize the gyro stabilization. I'll just give you a quick example. So if I drag in this unstabilized drone clip, it will do some automatic recognition, so it knows it is the 12, it knows the lens is wide, it knows the dimensions of the frame rate, blah 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 blah. And if we click this button here, it shows us the stabilization overview. So we can see if we just play our clip here, I am just going to make sure this is muted because it's very noisy with the drone. So you can see this is what we're actually going to get outputted, and this is the original that's kind of been stretched out, as I believe it does lens correction as well, which is pretty awesome. Obviously you can see it moving around and making our image nice and stable. So if I turn stabilization off, you'll see it is obviously very, very shaky. Pause it, turn it back on, and it becomes pretty awesome. So yeah, that is just a quick little overview at GyroFlow. Obviously it is a great way to stabilize your footage, and it actually gives a really nice result compared to Hypersmooth 6.0. So if we jump back into our clip here, this is a stabilized clip as well. And I think that the Hero 12 does really, really well in these kind of like following situations on a drone for cars, as it just captures the action perfectly. Obviously this has been color corrected relatively lightly. And this is actually when I did get ND filters as well. As you will see, there is a lot of motion blur. I had this at 24 frames per second and a shutter speed of 1/48. So you see you get this nice motion blur on the faster moving objects. Yeah, pretty cool. And our second to last clip is a similar angle as the helmet cam, but this is actually on a chest rig. And this is a point of view shot as well, but this is kind of a more relaxed one and a more like day-to-day realistic version. Obviously you can see in this start frame there is a lot of motion blur already, and this is because I did have NDs on as well with a doubled shutter speed. So you can see you're just scrolling on the phone doing day-to-day kind of things, and it looks pretty cool, to be honest. You could cut this into quite a lot of scenes just to give you a unique point of view. So this is also in, I believe, I think I've used this. Yeah, so this is a 8x7 one. So that gives us a whole lot of room to reframe. So if I set it at 73 here, that means I can go up and I can also go down, which is pretty cool. So I can just reframe everything just that little bit so I can see more of this. Obviously, if I wanted to come in as well, probably not that much, to about 85, I can slide it over, centralize the phone just a little bit more, see more of the environment, and you've just got a whole lot more room to reframe in post. So yeah, pretty cool. And moving on to our final scene, this is a handheld camera on a bicycle. This is in the lovely island of Mallorca, and I'll just play the clip for you now. So this is using the Hypersmooth 6.0 built in. This is actually in 5.3K, so you do have a little bit of room to play about in post, just like this, for a bit of reframing. So as you can see, there is quite a bright area, obviously, with the sun here, which all of this information has been lost. I think there isn't a camera on Earth that has enough dynamic range to be able to capture well exposed cars here and a well exposed sun, but still think it looks pretty cool. Makes a really nice shot, and I think the 6.0 stabilization actually does a really good job as well. If you did want to correct things like this bit of lens distortion in the bottom left frame where the wood is, you could use a software like Gyroflow. As you can see, it stretches out the corners and performs some lens correction within the software. That would mean you do have to turn off Hypersmooth 6.0. So it's up to you what type of stabilization you use. Obviously with Gyroflow, you do have a lot more control over the stabilization. And obviously with 6.0, you don't have many options, but it is a great level of stabilization straight out of the camera. So I hope you guys did enjoy those examples, and I really do think that the GoPro is probably one of the most versatile cameras in terms of different things that you can capture with it. So I did just want to go through a couple of the accessories that you can purchase for the Hero 12. And the first one is this protective housing, which lets you dive down to depths of up to 60 meters apparently. Never done it myself, but I will take GoPro's word for it. And it also protects the front lens, front screen and rear screen as well. So obviously you cannot change these settings with the back door on. However, they do include a skeleton back door with the housing as well, which just clips on like this and then closes in the same way, meaning you can press all the buttons. I believe it is still gonna keep it water sealed as it has this white sealing around the edge. And then there's some foam, but it kind of seems like it wouldn't to me just because it exposes the back, and I don't know how much of a seal it gets against the screen. But pretty cool nonetheless if you are using this for anything other than diving with the back door on. I have been snorkeling with this protective housing, even though this is waterproof up to 33 feet. I just didn't want this getting damaged or anything, so this does actually work pretty well for that. And the next obviously essential accessory is a micro SD card. I don't know if you can actually see this, but this is a SanDisk 128GB Extreme card. This is perfect as this allows me to capture around 2 hours of 5K 24 footage on this little card. And the extreme version of the SanDisk cards are able to capture all of the frame rates and maximum resolutions of this camera, which is excellent. And I also do have this accessory here, which is the head mount. They do make a chest mount as well. And I think this is excellent as it just means you can pop it on somebody's head for those point of view shots. It works well for doing point of view driving, point of view anything really. Obviously, it's nice and lightweight on somebody's head. Obviously, you can't really strap a big Blackmagic or FX3 camera to somebody's head without something expensive like the Hermit system, which is just too bulky anyway and takes ages. But this does a good job of getting you a nice, unique angle. And the final accessory that I would recommend for the GoPro, and some would say is actually pretty essential, are ND filters. So this is a set of 4 ND filters. One is not actually an ND filter, one is actually a CPL filter, but these are made by Neewer, which it's a pretty cheap brand, but they work well for me. So we've got an ND8, an ND16 and an ND32, and obviously our CPL filter. So to change these, all you do is squeeze and twist your original lens on your GoPro, and then it should pop off just like that. You can put that to one side, select your ND, and then it is basically the same thing in reverse, as it has these little metal rods on the inside which do something as you squeeze. Don't know, it's kind of magic, but basically to put it back on, you just press and twist, and it is on and ready to go. Just like that, looking super cool. The reason that I use these is obviously because I like to get nice cinematic footage, and putting an ND filter on means that you can lock your shutter speed at double your frame rate. And if you were to do this without an ND filter in a quite well lit situation, it would mean that your image is blown out. And so that we don't overexpose our image, we put on our ND filter, which is basically like sunglasses for a camera, and it brings down the exposure, meaning we can keep our shutter speed locked at double our frame rate and get that nice smooth motion blur. Now obviously you can add motion blur in post, however I am more of a fix it in pre kind of guy over a fix it in post kind of guy, so that is why I do use ND filters all the time. So as I mentioned earlier on in the video, there are some new competitors to the GoPro Hero line. And the two that I wanted to talk about are the DJI Osmo Action 4 and the Insta360 Ace Pro. Now I will say that I won't be doing a detailed comparison between the three cameras, as there are plenty of videos that do this already in case you are stuck as to which camera to purchase. But I will say in more recent years, with the introduction of these new action cameras, it does make me think, is the GoPro Hero still the best action camera on the market? So these new action cameras do actually have features that the GoPro Hero does not. And obviously these are more desirable features for me, and it kind of makes me think, did I get the right action camera? Now, I don't think I will be switching cameras anytime soon, unless one of these other action cameras introduces something groundbreaking like a full frame sensor on an action camera or something like that. So for now, I think I will stick with my GoPro Hero. And for the unobservant viewer, the footage that you get out of the three cameras is pretty much indistinguishable. There's nothing that makes me go, oh my God, that was shot on the DJI Osmo 4. That's so much better than the Hero 12. It does just look like action camera footage at the end of the day. So to summarize, I do think that buying a GoPro Hero 12 or any other action camera for that matter is still a good idea in 2024. I think that they have enough features and enough versatility that makes it worth purchasing them. But I do think that a little bit of that is up to the user and how much they can actually get out of this camera, as the options as to where you can put it and what you can use it to film are seemingly endless nowadays. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into using action cameras as a filmmaker in 2024. Obviously this video isn't sponsored by GoPro, so all opinions are my own. If you do have any questions or just want to know a little bit more about the Hero 12, please feel free to drop me a comment in the comment section down below. Also, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does help the channel out a lot. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.